Alicia, the girl, she gave an interview with police right when she got picked up. She's already spoke to them and confirmed, oh yeah, we were here.
Alicia didn't just chat with the cops, she went way past that. She flipped the whole story upside down and dragged everyone down with her.
Alicia Andrews did not know any of those men in that group, and none of those men in that group knew Alicia Andrews. As a matter of fact, if there was some conspiracy, Alicia Andrews was not in the loop because she was not in the group.
And now the talk is she might have dragged young Ace into the chaos too. Here's the breakdown. Inside that tense, packed courtroom in Tampa, Florida, Assistant State Attorney Scott Harmon laid out what prosecutors called a towering stack of evidence against 22-year-old Alicia Andrews. They're not painting her as some clueless girl caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not even close. They're portraying her as a key, deliberate, and downright essential player in the cold-blooded killing of Jacksonville rapper Julio Foolio.
He didn't know as he was out with friends celebrating his birthday that he was being watched, that he was being followed. He was being stalked. Stalked and observed while he was celebrating. Stalked and observed by a group of killers.
The prosecution's case stacks up piece by piece, forming a wall of incriminating proof. It's a meticulously built record: digital traces, surveillance footage, cell tower logs, license plate hits, social media activity, eyewitness statements, and even Andrews' own admissions. Together, they form a chilling portrait of a woman who wasn't just a bystander, but an active architect in stalking, locating, and helping execute a deadly plan on what should have been a birthday celebration. The paper trail traces her involvement all the way back to June 21, 2024, when she started sending Instagram messages about booking an Airbnb in Tampa for the next day.
Hey, could I book a B&B in Tampa? This is 2 days before the murder. She's trying to find lodging for this operation.
This wasn't no friendly weekend getaway. Prosecutors say this was the first step in setting up a headquarters for what became a precisely coordinated hit. And it didn't stop there. Evidence shows the whole squad: Andrews, her boyfriend Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathite, and brothers Rashard and Davian Murphy, were plotting this move with a level of calculation that's straight up bone-chilling.
Reservations were made, uniforms, disguises obtained and selected. Gear was obtained, weapons selected, weapons loaded, and weapons modified and made ready.
They stocked up on disguises. All 5 suspects were seen acquiring black outfits, balaclavas, ski masks, and COVID masks. Surveillance caught Andrews wearing a black CO mask, while Chance was spotted in a blue one.
This is the Saturday, earlier in the day, before Julio Foolio is going to start appearing at clubs in Tampa. This is the residence of Sean Gathright, one of the conspirators. That is Mr. Gathright walking out with a large duffel bag, and Isaiah Chance walking out with bags.
Surveillance footage from the early hours of June 22nd captures Gathright and Chance loading duffel bags stuffed with weapons and tactical gear at Gathright's Jacksonville residence. Then comes the vehicle coordination, another chilling layer of planning that completely destroys any illusion of innocence. The crew rolled out in 2 cars, a black Chevy Impala registered to Gathright's mother, serving as the assault vehicle carrying the shooters, and a rented silver Chevy Cruze secured by Rashard Murphy to stay off the radar, acting as the surveillance car. This dual vehicle setup mirrors the kind of precision you'd expect from seasoned operators or organized criminals, not from bystanders. The prosecution's narrative gains even more gravity when it reaches the stalking phase, the point where Andrews' active participation becomes impossible to deny. Julio Foolio had tragically publicized his own birthday celebrations on Instagram: a pool party, a night at Club Teasers on North Nebraska Avenue, and an after-party at Truth 18 on East Bush Boulevard. At around 1:40 a.m. on June 23rd, surveillance shows Andrews, Chance, and Davian Murphy leaving the Airbnb in the Cruze, stopping by a McDonald's at 2205 East Fletcher Avenue to grab food before heading out.
That is her in the passenger seat. And there's not going to be any doubt about that in this case, because when she's later interviewed by police, she identifies herself. Because you're not really going to be able to see her face, but she says, yeah, I'm in that car. That's me.
Footage from that McDonald's drive-thru clearly identifies all 3 in the vehicle, directly exposing Andrews' later claim that she went alone because she was hungry as a flat-out lie. The video paints a different story. Andrews and Chance, faces concealed behind CO masks and hoodies, are seen conducting ground surveillance near Teasers around 2:21 a.m., parked at the north end of the lot. Then later outside Truth 18 around 3:11 a.m. prosecutors allege they posed as a couple to blend into the nightlife crowd while feeding intel back to their team. What's most striking is the precision of timing. The Impala carrying the shooters pulled into Teasers right as Julio Foolio exited at 2:47 a.m., entering from the north side to stay undetected.
And what happens at 2:47? This car up here in the upper right, that's on that road, which is Nebraska, is pulling in to the north end of the parking lot of Teasers.
This wasn't luck, and it sure wasn't random. It was coordinated, minute-by-minute tracking fed through lookouts who never took their eyes off the target. Surveillance across 3 club parking lots chronicles the group's movements with unnerving detail, forming a digital trail of their stalking campaign. Cell tower data backs it up, showing Andrews' phone pinging near each stop, the clubs, the McDonald's, and, most crucially, the murder scene. At 4:40 a.m., her phone connected to a tower near the Home 2 Suites by Hilton on Kinley Drive, putting her exactly where, moments later, Foolio would be gunned down. The ambush itself was caught by multiple cameras, hotel security feeds and a Tesla Sentry mode recording, giving prosecutors what they're calling a video map of murder. At roughly 4:30 a.m., Foolio and his entourage arrived at the Home 2 Suites in 3 vehicles after failed check-in elsewhere. Sitting in the passenger seat of a Dodge Charger driven by Xavier Edwards, Foolio appeared calm, feet up on the dashboard, completely unaware of the storm closing in. Andrews' car pulled into the lot first, executing a slow, deliberate U-turn that passed within feet of the Impala hidden in the shadows. Then, 3 shooters, Gathright and Davian Murphy armed with AR-style rifles, and Rashard Murphy wielding a fully automatic Glock, stepped out in full black ninja-style gear, moving with tactical precision to their positions. What followed was a ruthless burst of gunfire, over 50 rounds unleashed in a perfectly synchronized ambush. Trapped inside the car, Foolio jerked upright, scrambling toward the back seat, but the bullets found him fast, one piercing his chest, ripping through his heart, lungs, and aorta, and 2 more slamming into his back, tearing through his liver. He died on the spot, never given a second to react or escape the ambush. 3 others were struck amid the chaos. The driver, Xavier Edwards, took a bullet to his upper right arm. In the back seat, Gino Norris was also wounded in the arm, and nearby passenger K-Meyer Bentley, riding in a Nissan parked close to the scene, was hit in her upper arm as well. The barrage ripped through hotel windows, terrifying families and students from the University of South Florida orientation program, along with tourists who suddenly found themselves in the middle of what prosecutors describe as a gang-style execution. No rifle casings were recovered, thanks to the shooter's use of brass catchers, but investigators did find 31 9mm casings from the Glock. Photos from the impounded Charger later showed dozens of bullet holes peppering the car, each marked with yellow evidence tags, a haunting visual of the ferocity of the attack. But the prosecution's most incriminating evidence didn't come from the gunfire itself. It came afterward, and directly from Alicia Andrews' own words during interrogation. Ring camera footage from the Airbnb captured the crew returning after the hit, unloading gear, and moving with the kind of calm you'd expect from people who thought they got away with it.
Now they're unloading, bringing out all of their kit and their gear, their weapons. There's Mr. Davion Murphy. Now they're getting sloppy because it's the next day, and all of the conspirators are visible. There's Mr. Murphy trying to go back in. Mr. Gathright walking out with gear.
Andrews, Chance, and Rashard Murphy then took an Uber back to Jacksonville, where surveillance cameras recorded their arrival at Gathwright's home. When police finally interviewed Andrews, she repeatedly lied, denying any role in the events. But in what can only be described as a devastating collapse of her defense, she ultimately acknowledged her presence in every crucial video, confirming she was at Teasers, Truth 18, and the Home 2 Suites parking lot. She admitted Chance was driving the silver Chevy Cruze used to track Foolio and confessed that she allowed him to use her phone to communicate with Sean Gathright during the pursuit. Her excuse: she and Chance were supposedly asking about party entry fees and were at the hotel lot because they'd gotten lost. Investigators, however, found her statements riddled with contradictions, as surveillance footage flatly disproved her claims. When someone lies about facts that are easily verified, it naturally begs the question: what else are they lying about? The sheer weight of the evidence against Alicia Andrews is overwhelming. Pre-planned communications, vehicle coordination traced through license plate readers, cell tower pings placing her phone at each key scene, surveillance showing her conducting reconnaissance, her own admissions, her presence at the crime sites, post-murder efforts to destroy evidence, and repeated deception toward law enforcement. The prosecution built a case leaving virtually no space for reasonable doubt, blending advanced technology with meticulous detective work to construct an airtight story of conspiracy and murder. If convicted as charged, Andrews faces a mandatory life sentence, and given the strength of the evidence, conviction appears almost certain. Still, despite the crushing mountain of proof, surveillance, cell data, lies, Alicia's defense team refused to surrender. What followed was a last-ditch effort to rewrite her role, recasting her from a deliberate accomplice into a woman blinded by love and controlled by manipulation. Witness accounts and defense arguments painted a sympathetic image, but the challenge was immense. While prosecutors carefully assembled their case, piece by incriminating piece, the defense faced an almost impossible task. How do you craft reasonable doubt when your client appears on multiple surveillance feeds, is tracked by cell tower data, flagged by license plate readers, and personally admits being at the scene? The answer, according to defense attorney Life Malcolm's roughly 30-minute opening statement, was to reshape the story, to transform Alicia Andrews from a calculated participant into a naive, impressionable young woman caught in the web of an abusive, controlling boyfriend.
Alicia Andrews did not know any of those men in that group, and none of those men in that group knew Alicia Andrews. As a matter of fact, if there was some conspiracy, Alicia Andrews was not in the loop because she was not in the group.
Throughout his opening, Malcolm spoke with fiery conviction, weaving emotional contrasts meant to restore Andrews' humanity in the eyes of the jury. His central claim was clear and unwavering. Alicia Andrews had no knowledge of any murder plot and no connection whatsoever to gang activity. According to Malcolm's version of events, she believed the trip to Tampa was nothing more than a short weekend getaway, a chance to patch things up with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Isaiah Chance.
On the weekend, Charles Jones was killed. Alicia Andrews was on a weekend trip with her boyfriend.
He drove home one point again and again. There was no evidence. No proof that Alicia Andrews killed Charles Jones. No proof she wanted him dead. No proof she helped those men carry out the crime in any capacity. Malcolm argued she merely accompanied Chance that morning, unaware of his intentions and uninvolved in the planning, stalking, or execution of the attack. To reinforce that claim, he pointed to the total lack of forensic links tying Andrews to the weapons or the shooting. No fingerprints. No DNA. Nothing connecting her to the AR-style rifles or the modified Glock. He highlighted the stark difference between Andrews and the gunman. While the shooters were cloaked in black ninja gear, Andrews was exposed, not dressed for stealth, not equipped for a tactical hit. That distinction, he said, proves she wasn't a lookout or tactical spotter, no matter what prosecutors inferred from the cell tower pings or surveillance videos. Malcolm then turned his attention to the investigation itself, describing it as riddled with inexperience and oversight. He noted that the lead detective had barely 4 months of homicide experience and that this was, in fact, his very first case as the primary investigator. He framed Andrews' lies to police not as signs of guilt, but as reactions driven by fear and confusion, the panic of a young woman swept up in events she didn't fully understand. The emotional core of Malcolm's defense rested on the dynamics of Andrews' relationship with Isaiah Chance, which he painted as controlling, volatile, and psychologically abusive. Although the judge had barred formal evidence of domestic violence from being introduced, Malcolm subtly threaded it through his narrative, portraying Andrews as a frightened, manipulated partner, not a willing participant in a murder plot. He described their relationship as turbulent and toxic, suggesting that Alicia went to Tampa out of hope, not malice, desperate to fix things with a man who ultimately led her straight into tragedy. Co-defense attorney Jeremy McClimmon echoed Malcolm's message, stressing that Andrews had cooperated with detectives from the very start, a fact he said disproved the idea that she was blindly loyal to Chance or any of the other defendants. But all the defense's careful framing couldn't compete with what came next, the raw emotional gravity of the witnesses who took the stand. Their testimonies painted a visceral, heartbreaking picture of that morning's violence and its shattering aftermath. The prosecution's first day in court was stacked with witnesses, each adding another crucial layer to the state's account of a methodically coordinated hit. The first witness, whose identity remained sealed by court order, had attended Foolio's birthday celebration and helped the jury piece together a clear timeline of events. They described being at the Airbnb party that police shut down, then joining the group as it moved to the clubs. According to this witness, Jones hadn't argued or clashed with anyone that night, reinforcing prosecutors' claim that this was no random shootout, it was a planned execution. After the clubs closed, the group decided to crash at the Home 2 Suites, a choice that would lead straight into tragedy. The witness said they stepped inside the hotel to use the restroom and, moments after exiting, were met with a deafening burst of gunfire lasting 10 to 30 seconds. One chilling detail stood out. The witness revealed their own boyfriend had been killed back in 2018 in the same Jacksonville gang feud that would eventually claim Foolio's life, underscoring how deeply this cycle of violence ran. Even so, they were adamant that they weren't in a gang themselves, had no connection to Foolio's six-block crew, and had never met Alicia Andrews before that night. But the courtroom's emotional peak came when Vandia Gino Norris, Foolio's cousin and longtime friend, took the stand. A U.S. Postal Service mail handler and lifelong Jacksonville resident, Norris had known Jones for about a decade, describing their bond as brotherly. He joined the birthday trip from Jacksonville to Tampa, riding in Jones's black Dodge Charger, attending the pool party and both club appearances before the deadly ambush. What he recounted next held the entire courtroom silent. Norris testified that he had been half asleep in the back seat when he was jolted awake by the sudden impact of gunfire, at first thinking it was a crash. When he looked up, he saw Foolio slumped in the passenger seat, lifeless, and Xavier Edwards, drenched in blood, screaming for help. Edwards urged him to run, terrified the gunman was still nearby. The two scrambled out, abandoning the bullet-riddled Charger, and sprinted into the hotel lobby, banging on doors as they begged for someone to let them in. But the guests, frozen in fear, stayed silent. When asked directly on cross-examination, Norris confirmed he had never seen or heard of Alicia Andrews before that night and had zero interaction with her. His testimony didn't tie her to the act itself but bolstered the state's theory that she was an outside operative, someone planted close enough to observe and relay movements without raising suspicion. The divide between the defense's tale of innocence and the prosecution's picture of orchestration had never been clearer. The defense tried to cast Alicia Andrews as a good-hearted young woman with everything to lose, a college-bound substitute teacher whose only mistake was trying to mend a broken relationship with her volatile boyfriend. They painted her as naive, hopeful, and tragically caught in a nightmare she never intended to be part of. But that carefully crafted image collided head-on with hard evidence: surveillance footage, cell tower data, license plate reader hits, eyewitness accounts, and Andrews' own words, all placing her at every critical scene, every pivotal moment. She wasn't just nearby, she was coordinating through her phone, scouting at clubs, circling the hotel, then racing back to Jacksonville after the ambush, destroying evidence, and lying to police. Yet beyond the gripping courtroom drama, the story of Julio Foolio's murder runs much deeper. Behind the faces in the defendant's row lies a darker network, one woven from gang allegiances, retaliation, and silence. At the center of that web sits a name that looms large in Jacksonville's rap scene: Yungeen Ace. The arrests, the evidence, and the street connections all began pointing toward him. The investigation into Julio Foolio's killing quickly grew into one of Florida's largest multi-agency operations in recent years, pulling in the Tampa Police Department, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, and a host of state and local task forces. What began as a brutal homicide in a Tampa hotel parking lot soon unraveled into a far-reaching probe spanning multiple states, exposing intricate gang networks and digital trails that eventually tied back to one of Jacksonville's biggest rap figures. Investigators worked fast, and the suspects' own behavior in the days after the murder only dug their graves deeper. Every move they made screamed guilt. Among the most damning pieces of evidence was Sean Gathwright's attempt to cover their tracks. After the hit, he drove the black Chevy Impala to a relative's home in Polk County, where he began transferring incriminating items into a gold 2004 Toyota 4Runner, wiped down the Impala to remove prints, and then tried to ditch it altogether, a desperate effort to erase the evidence that would soon bring the entire operation crashing down.
Mr. Gathright drives across I-4 to Polk County to Auburndale to his grandmother's house, where he switches cars. He leaves his Impala at his grandmother's house, and he takes her Toyota 4Runner. And he drives out to Orlando, where he goes out that night to a club, and he posts a photograph of him drinking Don Julio tequila, which is a diss to Charles Jones.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.